Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. I'm so excited about this build because this build is something else. You know that I love round shapes, I love round builds in general, and I create round shapes all the time in The Sims 4. But this build is just so over the top. There are so many round shapes, and the whole process was so tedious but also fun. And you can here already see how I'm using rugs to lay out the build's shape. So the rug in the center, the circular one, is supposed to be a round pool, and then these rugs from Journey to Batu that I'm just bringing into the correct position here is supposed to be the shape of the build itself. This way I knew the dimensions of the build and I could start to work on the pool, which is what I'm doing here, because I wanted to have a perfect size of the pool in relation to the rest of the build. And I placed the circular rug as a guideline, and here I'm placing lots of base game debug columns, and I'm using Alt on my keyboard and the left mouse button in combination with the Sims 3 camera to rotate all these objects freely. This is the tedious part about this build, and I'm bringing all these objects into the correct position, and this way I'm able to create a round pool. Also, a little disclaimer, I'm going to use the tool mod in some areas of the build, but this build is CC free and unmodded in the gallery. You don't need the tool mod to download this build from the gallery, and also all the round rooms that I'm going to build on the inside will be fully closed functional rooms. I'm going to hide the proper walls inside all these columns, so this build is fully functional and everything is fully closed, because I know that rooms which are not fully closed can be a nightmare when you play in a house, so I made sure that everything is functional and nice and neat. And here I've created a second floor, and I'm using the Journey to Batu rugs to once again have the correct shape. This was really easy because it's technically quite difficult to have a really smooth shape. I was going for this wave shape. And it can be really difficult to have a really smooth, beautiful shape, but because I've used the Journey to Batu rugs, I have a really good guideline, and all I'm doing here is placing all these pristine pedestals on the inside so I have the perfect shape. And after I was done, I decided to use the Spade Stony Goodness slabs to fill in the area in the center. I decided to leave some gaps. This way I was able to use some island living glass floors because I wanted to have some beautiful skylights, just so it looks more fancy and interesting. This is just the outdoor area, so technically this isn't really needed because it's really bright and sun flooded already. But I mean, it looks cool, so why not? And I just tried to hide them a bit so the edges wouldn't stick out, so I brought them into the correct position, and then I placed more Stony Goodness slabs. I sized them up a bit just so I didn't have to place like lots of them. This was much easier. And then I've used the custom room tool. When you press Control on your keyboard and you are using a room tool or the custom room tool, you can delete sections. And this is what I'm doing here. So I am deleting section by section to kind of cut out the shape that I had created. And because of the round shape and all these objects, the actual floor shape is kind of hidden on the inside, because you cannot create a floor shape that is like really smooth and round like this. But I mean, this is what's so fun about round shaped builds. You just have to repurpose different objects, and my two favorite objects will always be the Spade Stony Goodness slab and the Get Famous Pristine pedestal, because these objects are just perfect. And here I'm using the tool mod to select the circle that I had created at the very beginning of the video, and I just moved the circle into the foundation. This was just quicker and easier. You can also do it without the mod. And then I once again used the rug. So this is the same guideline, and I used more pristine pedestals because I wanted to have an inner circle. This way it will be much easier to hide the pool on the inside, because the columns on the outside are relatively slim. And I just need a bigger area so I'm able to hide the pool perfectly on the inside. And I just duplicated some of them at this point because it was quicker and easier. And then I had a perfect circle. Here I'm using the custom pool tool to fill in the area, and you can see that this way it's much easier to kind of hide the pool edges, because otherwise some edges will be sticking out. And even here, even though I've used the pristine pedestals to create an inner circle, it was still quite difficult to really hide the pool on the inside. So my recommendation would be to make sure that your round shape is thick enough to really hide the pool on the inside. And here I'm using once again the Journey to Batu rock to create another round shape, just as I've done in the beginning. As I mentioned earlier, the whole process was relatively tedious, so at some point I just decided to use the tool mod to duplicate some areas. You totally don't have to do this, because in this case I could have just done it the regular way, the good old-fashioned way, using Alt and the left mouse button, but the build was just so tedious that at some point I decided to duplicate the sections that I had already created. And here I'm bringing all these columns into the correct position. You saw all these rocks at the very beginning. You can see this wave shape, and all I'm doing here now is bringing more of these columns into the correct shape, just so I'm able to cut out the foundation. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've done for the level above. I'm going to delete the foundation that is sticking out here, and then I have a perfectly round shape. I had to use the deletion protection because I had already brought all these objects into the correct position and the game just wanted to delete them. And here I'm working on the wall on the outside, and in this area I'm going to build some rooms later, and it was really difficult to really hide the rooms inside these columns or the walls, because some of you might know this, or some of you might have experienced this at some point. When you sometimes position an object inside a wall, the object turns dark. It looks like a weird shadow, and this is what I was dealing with here all the time. So I really had to work on this for hours yesterday. Like, I was technically already done, but I had to make so many minor changes just to make it perfect. So technically I was already done, but I just had to fix lots of things and try to make it look as perfect as possible. And here I'm working on the round section at the top. This will be the entrance area. I'm going to build some beautiful, spectacular stairs using a base game debug column. And I just had to build a section up here, and this will be the entrance area. There will be some stairs, and your Sims will walk down right into the living area. So this is a 50 by 50 lot, but the space on the inside, the actual livable space, is quite small. There's one bathroom, one bedroom. This is like more of a really, really fancy bachelor pad. This is just more about the shape and the exterior and having pool parties and just enjoying life in this beautiful mansion. This is definitely not a traditional build. This is not a family home, but it's beautiful, and maybe some of your bachelor Sims might enjoy this build. And here I'm just creating the other wall, and it's the same process once again, lots of pristine pedestals. And I really love to do this, but I have to admit, I really have to be in the mood for builds which are super, super tedious like this one. Like, sometimes I have an idea, I sit down, I start to build, and after like 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, no, I'm done. I can't build this today. I'm going to build something different. I really have to be in the mood. I just need the correct headspace to really place all these objects, to be honest, even though it's fun. But I just had fun to build another round build. So I really enjoyed creating this one, and I hope you really like how it turned out. I did my best here. This build was really challenging, and even though I've created so many round builds in the past, I felt like this one was a bit more difficult maybe. And let me know in the comments down below, what do you want to see next? Do you have any wishes? And I just have so much fun building, and I just want to hear what you request. What are your wishes? And just leave a comment down below. Here I'm using more Spade Stony Goodness slabs once again to fill in the area. I just followed the curve of my pristine pedestals. The Spade Stunnigetness slab has a really nice shape and is much more forgiving. Like when you create a round shape, just as I've done right now, you can just roughly follow the shape and it still looks nice and perfect. But when it comes to the pristine pedestal, I feel like you have to be really particular with how and where you place them. So it's much easier to work with the Spade Stunnigetness slab sometimes. And here at this point, I have the shape of my build so far, and all I have to do is build the rooms, place more columns to kind of hide all the unpleasant edges, and I of course also have to build some stairs. Here I'm using the true mod and the base game column that I've mentioned earlier. This one does not have a footprint. It's non-existent to your Sims, which means that your Sims just ignore it. They just walk right through it. And I'm going to hide some real proper stairs on the inside. So this will be functional. This is the entrance area. This is where your Sims are going to walk up and they are going to access the house at the very top. And I wanted to have a really particular shape of the stairs. I originally wanted them to follow the kind of the curve of the house, but then it just didn't really work out this way, and I just built it this way, and I thought, okay, this looks fine as well. And I then just started to place some furniture here and there just to see what it looks like and if this works. And here I'm placing the stairs on the inside. You can here see that they are very visible, which I don't like. So my first idea was to just duplicate these stairs, but then I actually had to duplicate each single individual step and brought it into the correct position. And here I'm working on the second pool already. So there are multiple pools. And I just wanted to have lots of fun pools. Your Sims can just have a swim, and these are functional. So for the really circular one in the front, I've used a trick where you place some of the objects on the level above. So this way, your Sims can enter the pool, even though there are pristine pedestals technically in the way, but they are on the level above. I just brought them down using tool, and this way it works. Another way of doing this is by building a basement, and then you place an object inside the basement. You select the object and then you press 9 on your keyboard to bring the object up, and this way the object is technically in the basement and your Sims will ignore it. This is another way of doing this, very simple, very quick, but recently, I don't know why, I've encountered some issues here in this build and also in another build, and because even though these objects were on the level above, I had to adjust the pool size and area so the Sims were able to enter the pool. And this is kind of a new issue, I feel like, because usually when you place an object either on the level above or in the basement, it always works because it's not on the level your Sim is on and your Sim will ignore it. But this was tricky, and I encountered this in my last build or the build before as well, and I don't know why, to be honest. So if you're doing this, even if you're using the old basement trick, make sure to just figure out the correct position. I don't know what it is, but there are some issues. And here I'm working on the landscaping a bit. I wanted to have some beautiful flower beds. I've used more pristine pedestals. I used this grass or lawn from Eco Lifestyle, and the plants are mainly from Island Living, actually. The main swatch for this little bush or tree is red, but you can also select a green swatch, and I think it's really beautiful and tropical. It's just amazing for a build like this. And I then used some windows from Eco Lifestyle and the tool mod to create a round window facade. And here you can see what I've talked about earlier. Some of these columns turn this black gray color like a shadow, and I just had to make so many adjustments to this kind of off camera where I'm not recording for hours to really make it perfect, because I didn't want any words to kind of stick out, or I just wanted this to be perfect. And you can here see part of the process where I'm just changing the position of all these columns. So all these rooms are fully closed, as I've said. Weather is not going to affect your Sims, so it's just a proper room. Also the lighting is like a regular just like in a regular room, because it is a regular room, because this is kind of the issue when it comes to not fully closed rooms and outdoor areas. The lighting is a bit off and everything, so here everything is perfect. I have to admit, I gave up in one area. You just saw the painting. I had to hide a section of the wall, and I also decided to remove some columns to create some windows. This way it's just more bright and beautiful on the inside. And this was also a little workaround to deal with some of the columns that I just couldn't bring into the perfect position, so they wouldn't have this weird shadow on them. And I think it turned out nicely though. Here I'm just starting to furnish. I started by furnishing the outdoor area. I wanted this to be very clean, very modern, really minimalistic, but there's still everything your Sims would need. This is an area to sit. They can just sunbathe, they can swim. And this here is the interior. This is a fully closed rooms with the walls being hidden inside these columns. And I wanted to adjust the shape of the counters of the kitchen to the round shape, which is kind of the challenging part about furnishing a house like this, because you have all these round walls and it's really difficult to find the correct position for everything. This is a bit weird in general, like the whole shape and the interior, but I feel like this way, by rotating these counters, it kind of makes sense and it does work. And I've used the sofa from Dream Home Decorator. I rotated the TV using tool. This way I was able to just hang it on the wall basically, because I have this custom wall shape and I just wanted to adjust like the angle of the TV so it matches. It looks a bit weird because the sofa has a different angle, but I mean, you just have to make it work somehow when it comes to a shape like this, I guess. Here I wanted to have a beautiful office nook. I used this beautiful painting. I always forget from which pack it is, but I just love it so much. And I just wanted to have a bookshelf using these beautiful shelves from Dream Home Decorator, so the Sims could just grab a book and read. I'm also going to place a piano down there, so your Sims can just level up their skills. And this is kind of the whole living area on the inside, and the bathroom is located right next to the stairs, and it's not super spacious, but I mean, it's big enough for a house like this, I guess. I also made sure that there's a window so there will be natural light on the inside. And I also had to rotate the mirror and the sink a bit because I wanted to match the curve of the wall once again. I could have placed it in a different area, but I felt like this looks cute and it makes sense. And this is another room which is separated from the living area, so the Sims have to step on the outside, and this is once again a fully closed room, and I just turned this into a beautiful bedroom. The Sims have a really nice view of the pool and everything is just so open and beautiful, and I just figured I'd turn this into the bedroom because the space was kind of limited because of how I had created this build, and I figured it would make sense to just have a bedroom over there. I wanted this to be very green and beautiful, so I added lots of plants and flowers, and I just wanted this to be really big, open and spacious. And this is almost it. This video is coming to an end. You can here see lots of screenshots. This build is available in the gallery, CC free and unmodded. My ID is KateEmerald, and you can also grab the tray fats on my Patreon. And speaking of which, it's time to thank my wonderful Emerald Patreons. A big thank you to Asia, Saturated Spark, Shanna McClam, Shada Chase, and Lena Lynn. Thank you so much for your huge support. A big thank you to all my other Patreons. Thank you to anyone who watches my videos. I love you all so much. I hope you are doing very well. I hope you enjoyed this build. I hope your Sims might enjoy it if you let them move in. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.